Chapter 34. Nudge woke up 4 times before she finally rolled over and pried her eyes open. It was barely dawn. Fang was gone. First Angel, then Max, now Fang. Gone. Nudge looked around, crawling to the opening of the cave on her hands and knees. There's nothing like panic to really wake you up, get all your senses going. Nudge felt keenly alert, frightened. Too many thoughts started to rush into her brain. Movement caught her eye, and her head swiveled in a line with a loose formation of hawks wheeling through the crisp white-blue air. They were so beautiful, powerful, graceful, completely one with the sky and the earth and the rough cliffs. One of them was Fang. Nudge stood quickly, almost bumping her head on the low ceiling of the cave. Without hesitation, she leaped off the cliff edge, out into the sky. Her wings unfolded and caught the wind like sails, and suddenly she was a small brown boat soaring across an endless blue sea. She approached the hawks, and after hard, glinting glances at her, they moved so she could join them. Fang was watching her, and Nudge was surprised by his face. How alive he looked, how untight. Fang always looked very tight, somehow, taut, like the string on a bow. Now he looked loose and free and alive. "Mornin'," he said. "I'm hungry," said Nudge. He nodded. "Town about 3 minutes away. Follow me." He tilted his body in a new way that led him up and away without moving his wings. It was cool, like a plane. Nudge tried it, but it didn't work as well for her. She would practice. Below them was a thin 2-lane highway, clotted with the last few shops and businesses before the road wound away into the desert. Fang dipped his head. A fast food place had a large dumpster out back. Even from this high, Nudge could see a worker tossing cardboard boxes of stuff into it, getting ready for a new day. They circled a couple times till they were sure the worker wasn't coming out again, then dropped quickly, like bombs, tucking their wings in tight with just the feather tips guiding their descent. 30 feet above the dumpster, they blew their wings out again, braking sharply. Then they landed, almost silently, on the middle edge of the dumpster. "Nirvana," Fang said, pawing through food that was still good but not sellable. "Burger?" Nudge thought, then shook her head. "I don't know. After watching the hawks shredding little animals. Oh, but look, here's a couple of salads. And some apple pies. Bonus!" They tightened the drawstrings of their windbreakers around their waist. Then, working fast, they started stuffing food inside their jackets. Anything that would travel. 3 minutes after they'd landed, they were airborne again, lumpy and smiling. It was amazing how much better Nudge felt after eating. She sighed and sat cross-legged in the cave entrance, watching the hawks fly. Fang finished his 5th thin hamburger patty and wiped his fingers on his jeans. "You know, I think the way they swoop and stuff is like a message to the other hawks," he said. "Like they're telling them where there's game and where they'll be or something. I haven't figured it out yet, but I will." "Oh," Nudge sat back on her heels and spread her wings out, enjoying the feel of the sun warming her feathers. She tried to be quiet and not disturb Fang, but after 5 minutes, she was close to a meltdown. "Fang, we've just got to go find Max," she said. "Or should we go on and try to find Angel?" Fang pulled his attention away from the hawks with difficulty. "We're going to circle back, look for Max," he said. "She must have run into something." Nudge nodded solemnly, unable to define what kind of something would have kept Max from them. She didn't want to think about it. Fang stood, tall and dark against the weathered sandstone of the rock cliff. He looked down at her, his face calm and patient, his eyes reflecting no light whatsoever. "You ready?" Nudge jumped to her feet, brushing sand off her butt. "Absolutely. Where do you think we should?" But Fang was already gone, snatched away by the wind, borne upward by air rising from the canyon below. Nudge took a small running leap off the cliff after him. "Tarzan!" she yelled, whatever that was supposed to mean. Chapter 35. I woke up warm, dry, bandaged, and safe. I felt like death. As always, as soon as I was conscious, I panicked for a second, not knowing where I was. My brain anxiously registered flowered wallpaper, a soft, warm bed that smelled like laundry softener. I looked down. I was wearing a huge t-shirt that had a cartoon character on it, one I didn't know. I was at Ella's house. I was supposed to be rescuing Angel, if she was even still alive. Fang and Nudge were probably sticking pins in a Max doll by now. I didn't blame them. Now that I was awake, the pain in my shoulder and wing hit me all over again. A stinging ache that radiated out like a starburst. Ugh. I remembered once I dislocated my shoulder sparring with Fang. It had hurt so bad, and I had staggered around clutching my shoulder and trying not to cry. Jeb had calmed me down, talking to me, taking my mind off of it. And then, when I least expected it, he had popped it right back into place. Instantly, all the pain was gone. He had smiled and stroked my sweaty hair off my forehead and gotten me some lemonade. And I'd thought, this is what a dad would do. This is better than what a dad would do. I still missed Jeb so much it made my throat close. Suddenly, I froze because my bedroom door was opening very, very slowly and quietly. "Run!" my mind screamed as my hands curled into claws against the sheets. "Fly!" Ella's brown eyes, curious and eager, peered around the door. She spoke softly over her shoulder. "I think she's awake." Ella's mom appeared. "Morning, Max. You hungry? Do you like pancakes?" "And little breakfast sausages," Ella added. "And fruit and stuff?" I hoped it only felt like I was drooling on my nightshirt. I nodded. They smiled and left, and then I saw the clothes on my bed. My own jeans and socks had been washed, and there was a lavender sweatshirt with large slits newly cut into the back. Ella's mom was taking care of me, like Jeb had. I didn't know how to act, what to say. A girl could get used to this. Chapter 36. No matter how quickly the erasers killed them, the gas man was sure it would feel like forever. "Up and away," Iggy breathed, inching slightly closer to him. "Up and away?" The gas man frowned. Iggy had to be kidding. "Straight up?" Crash! The gas man jumped as the window behind them shattered with a shower of glass and broken wood. An eraser pushed through the ragged opening with a silent grin. "Guess what?" the eraser asked with a pleasant smile. "We got the little one. They don't need you two alive." They laughed, the sound like deep bells ringing. Then their faces began to change. The gas man couldn't help grimacing as they morphed, becoming more wolf-like, their muzzles extending, their teeth protruding until it looked like they had a mouthful of knives. "Boys, boys," one almost purred. "Didn't anyone ever tell you, you can run, but you can't hide?" His shiny dark hair was becoming thicker, and more hair sprouted grotesquely on his arms and hands. He literally licked his chops and rubbed his huge, hairy hands together as if he'd learned how to be a bad guy from cartoons. "Ready?" Iggy's voice was so faint, his lips so still that the gas man wasn't sure he'd heard anything. Every second seemed oddly stretched out. His hands closed into fists by his side. He was ready. Sure. "This freak's blind," one eraser said, gesturing toward Iggy. "Don't worry, kid. It'll all be over soon, and you won't have to worry about being blind anymore. But it's a shame they didn't give you one of their new eyes, like mine." The gas man looked up at him, and a feeling of revulsion rose in his throat as he saw what the eraser meant. Sit deep into one orbital socket was a stainless steel ball. A red, laser-like glow made it look as though it was filled with blood. The eraser grinned and turned his eye to the gas man. A red dot appeared on the gas man's shirt, and as he watched, it began to burn a small hole in the fabric. The erasers laughed. "You left before they could fix you up with the latest technology," one said. "Your loss." "Yeah, right," the gas man thought in disgust. "How about it, piggies?" the first eraser asked. "Do you want to try to run? Who knows, you might get lucky. For a little while." Grinning with anticipation, the eraser drew closer. On 3. Once again, the gas man wasn't sure if he'd heard Iggy, or if he was imagining it. 1. The gas man's toes were clenched inside his sneakers. 2. When Iggy shouted, 3! The gas man leaped straight into the air, unfurling his wings with a huge whoosh. With a roar of anger, one eraser grabbed the gas man's foot and yanked. Above him, Iggy burst through the rotting roof of the cabin, out into the sky. The gas man broke free of the eraser's grip. Then he was pushing through the shattered roof, tucking his wings in tight to get through the hole. Outside, he lost altitude too fast and landed clumsily on a rickety roof beam. He slid sideways, grabbed roof shingles that came off in his hands. Iggy yelled from 20 feet above him, "Gasser, move!" Just as he slid over the edge of the roof, the gas man spread his wings. He pushed down hard with all his strength and pulled his wings up and pushed them down again. As he surged up to meet Iggy, Iggy threw a package down into the cabin. "Move, move, move," Iggy yelled, flapping like crazy. Within seconds, they were 100 yards away. Boom! Only it was more like ba-ba-boom! The two boys recoiled from the blast, tumbling backward in the air from the shock wave. The gas man righted himself, eyes wide as a fireball 10 yards in diameter rose from where the cabin had been. He was speechless. After the fireball from Big Boy disintegrated, the cabin burned brightly. Its old, rotted wood consumed as instantly as kindling. Flames reached for the sky, licking at the green trees nearby, snaking along the ground as brittle brown pine needles caught fire. God, it was beautiful. "Well," Iggy said after a long while, "that takes care of them." The gas man nodded, feeling sick. One dark body had flown upward in the blast, falling back to the earth as a glowing coal. The other eraser had crawled a few feet away from the cabin, a burning silhouette that had collapsed, its outline blurred by fire. "Unless they escaped," Iggy added. Of course, Iggy hadn't seen anything. The gas man cleared his throat. "No," he said. "They're dead." He felt slightly queasy, guilty, and dirty. Then he remembered Angel, how she'd shared the last of the ice cream with him 3 nights ago. She was so small, and God only knew what horrible things they were doing to her. His jaw hardened. "Take that," he muttered. "That was for my sister. For Angel, you scum-sucking jerks." Then he saw the black Hummer, its hood crumpled, driving fast toward the burning cabin. An eraser was leaning out the passenger window, looking through binoculars. "Come on, Iggy," said the gas man. "Let's get out of here." Chapter 37. The bell clanged jarringly as rough hands pushed Angel forward. She stumbled, catching herself at the last second before falling onto coils of razor wire. Angel wanted to cry. She'd been doing this all day. It was late afternoon by now. She was starving and lightheaded, and every muscle ached, and they still made her run. It was a maze. Angel knew that. They had made it in a huge gym-like room in the school's maid building. They rang a bell and pushed her forward, and then she had to run as fast as she could to find the exit. Each time the maze was different, the exit in a different place. If she slowed down, she got an electric shock so strong it scrambled her brain, or red-hot wires under her feet burned her. So, eyes blurry with tears, Angel ran forward blindly, taking this turn and that until she finally stumbled out the exit. Then she would get a sip of water and a 5-minute rest while they redid the maze. Angel sniffled, trying to keep quiet. She hated this. If only she knew beforehand. If only she knew she could run through fast and not get shocked or burned. Angel sat up, a tingle of excitement running down her spine. She closed her eyes and tried to listen to what the whitecoats were thinking. One of them wanted to let an eraser loose in the maze, have it fight with her, see how strong she really was. One of them thought they should increase the heated wires so that she had to run on them, whether she was slowing down or not. Then he could study the effect of stress on her adrenaline levels. Angel wanted them all to burn in the HE double toothpicks forever. One of them was designing the next maze, the creep. Angel concentrated, trying to look as though she was resting. Someone gave her another sip of water, and she sucked it down fast. She could see the rough plan of the maze. It was in her mind because it was in the whitecoat's mind. Deliberately, Angel breathed in and out, looking spent, but she felt a new surge of possibility. She got it. She knew what the next maze would look like. Blinking tiredly, Angel sat up, keeping her eyes unfocused. In her mind, she was reviewing the maze's layout. A quick right, then another right, then a left, skip the next 3 rights, then take the 4th one, and so on till she saw the exit. She could see all the traps, the dead ends, the path that led nowhere. She could hardly wait to blow their minds. This would be fun. A whitecoat grabbed her, made her stand in front of the new maze's entrance. The bell clanged. Someone pushed her. Angel took off, running as fast as she could in case all the wires were hot. She took a quick right, another right, then a left, and so on. She raced through with record speed, with no hesitation. She didn't get shocked once, and she never felt a hot wire under her feet. She burst out of the maze's exit, then collapsed onto the cool wooden floor. Time passed. Words floated to her. Amazing. Cognitive ability. Interpretive skills. Creative problem solving. Dissect her brain. Preserve her organs. Extract her DNA. A voice said, No, we can't dissect her brain just yet. The speaker laughed, as if it were funny. His voice sounded like she'd heard it in a fairy tale or something. Like at night, or at home, or with Max. Angel blinked and swam toward consciousness. She made the mistake of looking up. An older man was there. He wore wire-rimmed glasses and was smiling at her. She got no thoughts from him whatsoever. He looked... "Hello, Angel," said Jeb Batchelder kindly. "I haven't seen you in a long time. I missed you, kiddo." Chapter 38. Nudge didn't exactly know what Fang expected to see. Max flying towards them. Max standing on the ground below, waving her arms to get their attention. Max's body crumpled. Nudge shut that thought down. She would just wait. Fang was older and really smart. Max trusted him. Nudge trusted him too. How far back had Max separated from them? Nudge couldn't remember. She and Fang had been flying in ever-widening circles for hours. How did they know Max hadn't passed them somehow and was waiting for them back at Lake Mead? "Fang, do you remember where we left Max?" "Yes." "Are we going to go there?" Pause. "Not if I can help it." "But why? Maybe Max is hurt and needs help. Maybe we need to save her before we go save Angel." It was hard, keeping these missions separate. First Angel, now Max, then Angel again. Fang banked to the left, tightening the angle as they'd seen the Hawks do. Nudge followed him. Below them, the ground looked parched, with only occasional roads, cactuses, brush. "I don't think Max would have gotten her all by herself," Fang said slowly. She's not going to fly into a tree or crash land. So if she's late because she's hurt, it probably means that someone, a person, hurt her, which means that someone knows about her. We don't want that someone to know about us too, which they would if we went to where Max is. Nudge's jaw dropped. And if Max is late because she's busy, then our going to her won't speed things up. She'll come back when she's good and ready. So for right now, we do a general look-see, but we're not going all the way back. Nudge heard Max's voice in her head. Think before you speak. So she shut her mouth and thought. She had no idea how Fang could not get Max, even if it meant they might get captured or hurt themselves. They all might get captured or hurt saving Angel, right? Why was Max different from Angel? Max was more important than Angel, Nudge thought, feeling guilty. Max took care of them, helped run their whole lives. She snuck a look at Fang. Fang was good, if not very warm or huggy. He was strong and handsome and capable. But would he stick around to take care of everyone if there was no Max? Or would he take off and go live by himself somewhere and not be bothered with them? Nudge didn't know what Fang was really thinking. Suddenly, Nudge was brushing tears out of her eyes, swallowing down the lump in her throat, feeling her nose clog up. Oh, God. She couldn't bear it without Max. Blinking, she tried to clear her vision, tried to think about something else. She saw a white truck down below and focused on it, forcing herself to wonder what it was carrying, where it was coming from. Like any of it mattered. She drew in deep breaths and held them, refusing to cry in front of Fang. She might have to start being very strong very soon. She might as well practice now. The truck headed toward an intersection that had signs marking a junction. Nudge blinked and looked as the signs became clear and she could read them. One said California Welcome Center, 18 miles. One said Las Vegas, north, 98 miles. One said Tepisco, 3 miles. Tepisco? Tepisco, Arizona? Where Nudge was from? Where her parents had been? Oh, God! Could she still find her parents? Would they want her back? Had they missed her so much all these years? Fang! She shouted, already beginning the descent. It's Tepisco down below. I'm going there. No way, Nudge, Fang said, flying closer to her. Don't get sidetracked now. Stay with me. No, said Nudge, feeling daring and desperate and brave. She hunched her shoulders and tucked her head down, feeling herself lose altitude. I have to go find my parents. If Max is gone, I'm going to need someone. Fang's dark eyes widened in surprise. What? Nudge, you're crazy. Come on, let's talk about it. Let's find a place, take a break. No, said Nudge, tears coming to her eyes again. I'm going down, and you can't stop me. Chapter 39. We're pretty safe unless the erasers catch our scent, the gas man whispered to Iggy. The two of them were tucked inside a narrow fissure in the side of a cliff, up high. Scraggly bushes obscured the opening. The erasers would have to rock climb to get to them, or use the chopper. Iggy kicked back and rested his hands on his knees. Well, this is a total suckfest, he said grumpily. I thought with those two erasers taking dirt naps, we'd be free and clear, at least for a while. They must have sent for backup even before they attacked the cabin. The gas man ground dust between his fingertips. At least we took two of them out. He wondered if Iggy felt as weird and bad about it as he did. He couldn't tell. Yeah, but what now? We're kinda all dressed up with no place to go, Iggy said. There's no way we can go home. They're probably everywhere. What are we supposed to do with ourselves? And what if Max and the others come back just to fly into an ambush? I don't know, the gas man said in frustration. I hadn't thought beyond just blowing them the heck up. Maybe you should come up with a plan. The two boys sat in the semi-darkness of the fissure, breathing the stale air. The gas man's stomach rumbled. Tell me about it, Iggy said, resting his head on his knees. Okay, the gas man said suddenly. I have an idea. It's risky, and Max will kill us when she finds out. Iggy raised his head. Sounds like my kind of idea. Chapter 40. Never in my 14 long years have I felt the slightest bit normal, except for my day with Ella and her mom, Dr. Martinez. First, we ate a real breakfast together around the kitchen table, on plates with forks and knives and napkins, instead of like a hot dog stuck on a barbecue fork, burned black over an open flame, then eaten right off the fork. Or cereal with no milk. Or peanut butter off of a knife. Beanie weenies from the can. Then Ella had to go to school. I was worried about the jerks from before, but she said her teacher was good at keeping kids in line, and so is the school bus driver. A real school bus, like on TV shows. So it was me and Dr. Martinez. So, Max, she said as she unloaded the dishwasher. I tensed. Do you want to talk about anything? I looked at her. Her face was tan and kind, her eyes warm and understanding. But I knew if I started talking, I would never stop. I would break down and start crying. I would freak out. And then I wouldn't be Max anymore. I wouldn't be able to function, take care of the others, be the alpha girl, to save Angel, if it wasn't already too late. Not really, I said. She nodded and started stacking clean plates. I fantasized about actually being friends with Ella and her mom long after I left here and went home. I could come back and visit sometimes. Yeah, and we could have picnics, exchange Christmas cards. I'm so sure. I was totally losing my grip on reality. I had to get out of here. Dr. Martinez put away the clean plates and loaded the dirty ones into the dishwasher. Do you have a last name? I thought. Since I don't have an official identity, there wasn't anything she could do with the information. I rubbed my temples. A headache had been creeping up on me since breakfast. Yeah, I said finally. I shrugged. I gave it to myself. On my 11th birthday, which was also a day I picked for myself, I had asked Jeb about a last name. I guess I was hoping he would say, your name is Batchelder, like me. But he hadn't. He had said, you should choose one yourself. So I'd thought about it. I thought about how I could fly and who I was. My last name is Ride, I told Ella's mom. Like Sally Ride, the astronaut? Maximum Ride. She nodded. That's a good name. Are there others like you? She asked. I pressed my lips together and looked away. My head was throbbing. I wanted to tell her. That was the awful part. Something inside me wanted to blurt out everything, but I couldn't. Not after years of Jeb telling me I couldn't trust anybody, ever. Do you need help? My eyes flicked back to her face. Max, with your wings, can you actually fly? Well, yeah, I was startled into saying. That's me, mouth like a steel trap maximum. Yep, you have to use all your tricks to get me to talk. Jeez, that's what I get for sleeping on a soft bed and eating homey food. Really? You can really fly? She looked fascinated, alarmed, and a little envious. I nodded. My bones are thin, I began, hating myself. Shut up, Max. Thin and light. I have extra muscles. My lungs are bigger, and my heart more efficient, but I need to eat a lot. It's hard. Abruptly, I clammed up, a furious blush heating my cheeks. That, folks, was the most I had ever said to a non-flock member. But when I spill the beans, I spill big. I might as well have hired a skywriting plane to scrawl, "I'm a mutant freak," in huge letters across the sky. How did this happen? Ella's mom asked softly. My eyes shut of their own volition. If I'd been alone, I would have put my hands over my ears and hunkered down into a little ball on the floor. Fractured images, memories, fear, pain all came crashing together inside my brain. You think being a regular teenager with growing pains is hard? Try doing it with DNA that's not your own, not even from a freaking mammal. I don't remember, I told her. It was a lie. Chapter 41. Dr. Martinez looked distressed. Max, are you sure I can't help in some way? I shook my head, irritated at myself, irritated at her for bringing all this up. Nah, it's all over anyway. Done. But I have to get out of here. Some friends are waiting for me. It's really important. How will you get to them? Can I give you a ride? No, I said, frowning and rubbing my hurt shoulder. I need to, fly there, but I don't think I can fly yet. Dr. Martinez creased her forehead, thinking, It would be dangerous for you to strain your injury before it's healed. I couldn't tell the extent of it, but I could give you a better idea if we had an X-ray. I looked at her solemnly. Do you have X-ray vision? She laughed, startled, and I couldn't help grinning too. God, Ella had this all the time. A real mom. No, not all of us have superhuman powers, she said teasingly, but some of us have access to X-ray machines. Dr. Martinez shared a vet practice with another doctor. Today was her day off, but she was sure no one would think it was weird for us to show up at the office. She gave me a windbreaker to wear, but I was still pretty freaked out about seeing other people up close. Hi, guys, Dr. Martinez said as we walked into the office. This is a friend of Ella's. She's doing a report on being a vet, and I told her I'd give her a quick tour. The three people behind the counter smiled and nodded as if this was totally believable. Maybe it was. How would I know? 2 seconds after I walked in, I froze in the doorway, feeling the blood rush out of my face as a wash of terror swept over me. There was a man there, in a white coat. Dr. Martinez glanced back. Max? I stared at her mutely. She gently took my arm and led me off into an exam room. Yes, in here is where we see our patients, she said cheerfully as she shut the door behind us. Then she turned and lowered her voice. Max, what's wrong? What's the matter? I forced myself to take several slow, deep breaths to uncoil the fists at my sides. It's the smell, I whispered, embarrassed. The chemical smell, like a lab, the guy in the white coat. I have to get out of here, okay? Can we just go now, really fast? I looked for an exit, a window. Her hand rubbed my back. I can promise that you're safe here. Can you stay just long enough for me to get a quick X-ray and then we'll leave right away? I tried to swallow, but my mouth was dry. My heart was pounding so hard it made a rushing sound in my ears. Please, Max. I forced myself to nod. Dr. Martinez checked to make sure I wasn't wearing jewelry, as if, then carefully positioned me on a table. A machine hovered over me. I felt like my nerves were about to snap. She stepped out of the room. I heard a tiny buzz, and it was all over. 2 minutes later, she showed me a large dark sheet with my shoulder bones, arm, and part of my wing showing in shades of white. She stuck it up on a glass box on the wall and turned on its light. The picture jumped out brightly. Look, she said, tracing my shoulder blade with her finger. This bone is fine. It's all muscle damage. You can see the torn tissue here and here. I nodded. And your wing bones, she said, unconsciously lowering her voice, all seem fine, which is good. Unfortunately, muscle damage usually takes longer to heal than bones do, though your rate of regeneration seems weirdly fast, I must say. She frowned at the x-ray, tapping it with her finger. Your bones are so fine and light, she murmured, as if talking to herself. They're beautiful. And then, what's this thing? She was pointing to a bright white square, maybe half an inch wide, that sat smack dab in the middle of my forearm. That's not jewelry, is it? She glanced down at me. Is it the zipper of the windbreaker? No, I took it off. Dr. Martinez leaned closer to the picture, squinting her eyes. It looks like, Her voice trailed off. What? I said, unnerved by the expression on her face. It's a microchip, she said hesitantly. We put something similar into animals to identify them in case they're lost. Yours looks like ones we use on really expensive pets, show dogs and such. They have a tracer in them in case they're stolen. They can be tracked wherever they are. Chapter 42. The look of comprehending horror that rose in my face alarmed Dr. Martinez. I'm not saying that's what it is, she said quickly. It's just what it looks like. Take it out, I said hoarsely. I held my arm out and pushed up my sleeve. Please, take it out right now. She looked at the x-ray again, studying it for several minutes while I tried not to jump out of my skin. I'm so sorry, Max, she said at last. I don't think it can be surgically removed. It looks like it was implanted a long time ago when your arm was much smaller. Now your muscles and nerves, blood vessels, have grown around it so completely that I think if we tried to take it out, you could possibly lose the use of your hand. You'd think I'd get used to the ongoing nightmare that was my life, but I was actually pathetically surprised that those demonoids from the school could continue to wreak havoc on me from so far away, so long ago. But why was I surprised? I asked myself bitterly. They had done just that 2 days ago when they'd kidnapped Angel. An image of her popped into my mind, her sweet, small face smiling up at me, love shining out. I swallowed hard and took a deep breath. Right then, we became aware of voices in the waiting room, men's voices, smooth and charming, asking questions. I froze again, doing my deer in the headlights imitation. Dr. Martinez looked at me and listened to the voices. I'm sure this is nothing, Max, she said calmly. But why don't you step in here for a minute? In the hall was a small door that led to their medicine storage closet. Several long white coats hung inside, and I slid in behind them, flattening myself against the wall. And yes, I get the irony. Thanks. Dr. Martinez turned off the light and closed the door. Barely 20 seconds later, I heard the voices in the examining room where I had been. What's going on here? Dr. Martinez said sharply, sounding outraged. This is a doctor's office. Sorry, ma'am, one voice said, sounding as if it were made of honey. My heart began to pound. Doctor, she snapped. Sorry, doctor, another voice said. It was soothing, calming, placating. Forgive us for interrupting. There's nothing to be concerned about. We're with local law enforcement. We're looking for anything unusual, said the first voice. Just a precaution. I'm afraid I can't tell you more than that. Implying that it was all top secret government stuff. Maybe I was. There was a pause. Was Dr. Martinez being drawn in by their voices? She wouldn't be the first one. Oh, God. I suddenly remembered my x-ray up on the light box, and I clapped my hand over my mouth. My stomach tightened. In the next minute, I could be fighting for my life. It was too dark to look for possible weapons. Think. Unusual like what? Dr. Martinez said acidly. A double rainbow? Gasoline for less than $1.50? Sugar-free soda that actually tastes good? I couldn't help grinning. She was just so great. And she seemed immune to erasers, which was really weird. No, said the second voice after a moment. Unusual people, for instance. Strangers in the neighborhood, children or teenagers that you don't know or who look suspicious, or unusual animals, even. I'm a veterinary surgeon, said Dr. Martinez in a chilling voice. To tell you the truth, I usually don't look at my patients' owners much, and I haven't seen any strangers around. As for unusual animals, last week I treated a cow that had a bicornuate uterus. She had a healthy calf in each side. Does that help? Silence. I would hate to be on the receiving end of her anger. Said the first voice. If you gentlemen will excuse me, I have a business to run. Icicles dripped off her words. The way out is through that door. If you do see or hear anything unusual, here's a number for you to call. Thanks for your time. Sorry to disturb you. Heavy footsteps faded from my hearing. A minute later, I felt the door slam shut. If you see those two guys again, call the cops, Dr. Martinez said to the receptionist. She came and let me out of the closet, looking at my face solemnly. Those guys were bad news, she said. Am I right? I nodded. I better leave right now. She shook her head. Tomorrow morning is soon enough. One more night of rest. Promise me. I opened my mouth to argue, but what came out was, okay, I promise. Nudge, for the last time, give this up. This is a bad idea, said Fang. A terrible idea. Privately, Nudge was surprised that Fang was still with her. Fang had threatened to leave her several times, but when he saw she really wouldn't budge, he'd retreated into angry silence. Now they were at the edge of a trailer home neighborhood. Nudge had remembered an address, and Tepisco was so small that it wasn't hard to get around and find it. She didn't know what she had expected, but somehow this wasn't it. The trailer park was divided into meandering rows, most marked by rickety wooden signs with names like Roadrunner Lane or Seguro Street on them. Come on, Fang said softly. I see Chaparral Court. They snaked their way through the chicory bushes, gnarled junipers, and abandoned appliances, and car skeletons that surrounded the neighborhood. No white picket fences anywhere. Nudge's quick eyes spotted an address, 4625, on the last mobile home of the line. She swallowed. Her parents could be right there. She pushed aside some spray paint cans, and she and Fang crouched beside an abandoned, graffitied car. What if they moved? Fang asked for the nth time. What if you misunderstood what you read, and these people aren't related to you at all? Then, with horrible gentleness, he said, Nudge, even if you weren't a test tube baby, which you probably were, what if there was a reason they gave you up? They might not want you back. Don't you think I haven't thought of that? She whispered with uncharacteristic anger. I know that, but I have to try. I mean, if there's the slightest chance, wouldn't you try? I don't know, Fang said after a pause. That's because you don't need anybody or anything, Nudge said, turning back to stare at the mobile home. But I'm not like that. I need people. Fang was silent. They were fairly out of sight between the car and some small pinyon trees. Nudge felt so nervous she was practically shaking. Beside her, Fang tensed, and then Nudge heard a door opening. She held her breath as a woman came out of the mobile home. Nudge quickly looked over her own arm to see if their skin tones matched. Kind of. It was hard to tell. The woman came down into the front yard, which was covered in brown pine needles, and sat down in a cheap lawn chair in the shade. Her hair was wet and in curlers, and there was a towel draped around her shoulders. She leaned back, lit a cigarette, and popped the top on a can of soda. "Coke. It's not just for breakfast anymore," Fang whispered, and Nudge elbowed him. Nudge sat back on her heels. It was weird. Part of her hoped that wasn't her mom. It would have been better if she'd been, like, setting a tray of cookies on the windowsill to cool, or gardening, or something. Something momish. But part of her still hoped it was her mom, because, frankly, anyone, was better than no one. Nudge just needed to get up, stroll over there, and say, did you lose a daughter named Monique about 10, 11 years ago?" Yep, that's all she had to say. And then the woman would look up and say, "Looking for something, freaks? Guess you found it." There was no mistaking that beautiful, melodic eraser laugh right behind them. Chapter 44. Nudge jackknifed to her feet. There were 3 of them, and they were already beginning to morph. They started off looking like male models, but then their freaky muzzles elongated, fangs erupted from blood-red gums, ragged claws grew from their fingertips. "Ari," Fang said evenly. Nudge frowned and looked at the leader. Her eyes widened. "Ari," she said, "you were just a little kid." He smiled, flexing his clawed hands. "And now I'm a great big grown-up eraser," he said. He snapped his teeth together playfully, making strong clicking sounds. "And you're a little brown piglet. Yum." "What did they do to you?" Nudge asked quietly. "I'm sorry, Ari." He frowned, his hairy brow lowering. "Save your pity for yourself. I'm exactly who I want to be. And I've got some news for you." He rolled up his sleeves to reveal heavily corded, muscled, hairy arms. "Your hideout in the mountains is nothing but ashes. Your pals keep having unfortunate accidents. You 2 are the last 2 alive. And now we've gotcha." This struck the erasers as funny, and they chuckled, shoulders shaking, while Nudge's brain reeled. Last 2 alive? The others were dead? Their house had been burned down? She began to cry and commanded herself to stop, but couldn't. Then she was weeping like a baby. She glanced anxiously at Fang, but he was watching Ari, his jaw tight, his hands coiled into fists. "Pinwheel," he muttered out of the side of his mouth. Ari frowned, obviously wondering what pinwheel meant, his large, beautiful eyes narrowing. "Kala first," Nudge muttered. She couldn't believe she was being so brave, almost like Fang. The rest of the flock was dead. It couldn't be. It just couldn't. "Count of 3, Fang said evenly, which meant count of 1. Ari leaned over, lightning fast, and cuffed Fang's shoulder. "Shut up!" "1," Fang said, regaining his balance, and Nudge instantly lunged forward, shoving the second eraser in the chest as hard as she could. Taken off guard, he staggered backward, right into the sharp pines of a chala cactus. Cursing, the eraser waved his arms, but landed smack on top of its 3-inch needles, shrieking like a train wreck in the making. A lovely, musical train wreck. In the next second, Nudge launched herself into the air, sideways, praying that Fang would catch her. He did, grabbing her arms and swinging her, following her momentum. Her feet kicked outward, smashing Ari in the side of the neck, almost knocking him over and leaving him choking and gagging. Then Fang swung Nudge as hard as he could, spinning her through the air as she snapped out her wings and beat them so fast that she stayed airborne. "You're gonna die, mutant," Ari snarled, leaping for Fang as he pushed off the ground. He grabbed Fang's leg and they both fell heavily. Then Ari was sitting on Fang's chest, punching him. Nudge gasped and put her hand over her mouth as she saw blood erupt from Fang's nose. The second eraser kicked at Fang's chest, hard, over and over. Thunk, thunk. Nudge was freaking. This was a disaster. The people in the trailer park were bound to notice her hovering in front of the trees. Fang took another hit, his head jerking sideways, and then he spit a stream of bloody saliva right into Ari's face. Ari roared and brought both hands down onto Fang's chest with enough force to snap his ribs. Nudge heard Fang's breath leave him in a whoosh. What to do? If she went down to the ground, she would be dead meat, and so would Fang. If only she could. Then she remembered the cans of spray paint on the ground. Maybe they were empty. Maybe not. In an instant, she had dropped down, grabbed up the nearest can, and leaped back into the air, out of reach. She shook the can hard, then dropped a few feet and aimed it right at Ari's face. After a heart-stopping wheeze, the green paint arced through the air, and Ari screamed and jumped to his feet, his clawed hands swiping at his eyes. Fang leaped up and took off faster than she'd ever seen him move. Nudge managed to get another eraser in the face, and then the paint ran out. Nudge threw it hard at Ari's head, where it bounced off his healthy, thick, green hair. Then she and Fang were in the air, well above the erasers. Ari was still standing, but his pal was on the ground, swearing and trying to wipe paint out of his eyes. The one who'd finally gotten off the cactus was way scratched up. Between the red blood and green paint, they looked kind of Christmassy. "You're dead, freaks," Ari snarled, his eyes streaming with tears, his long yellow teeth seeming too large for his mouth. "Oh, like you're not a freak yourself," Nudge said meanly. "Try looking in a mirror, dog boy." Ari fumbled in his jacket, then pulled out a gun. Nudge and Fang rocketed out of there as fast as they could. A bullet whistled right past Nudge's ear. She'd been that close to being deaf and dead. When they were safely away, Nudge said breathlessly, "I'm sorry, Fang. It was my fault you got hurt." Fang spit more blood out and watched it fall a long, long way to the ground. "It wasn't your fault," he said. "You're just a kid." "Let's go home," she said. "They said it burned down," Fang answered, wiping blood from his lip. "No, I mean home with the Hawks," said Nudge. Chapter 45. Angel stared and stared and stared at Jeb Batchelder. She knew who he was. She had been only 4 years old the last time she'd seen him, but still, she knew his face, his smile. She remembered Jeb tying her shoes, playing old maid with her, making popcorn. She remembered hurting herself and Jeb picking her up to hold her tight. Max had filled in for her how good Jeb had been, how he'd saved them from the bad people at the school, how he'd disappeared and they thought he was dead. But he was alive, and he was here. He had come back to save her again. Hope filled her like warm light. Angel almost jumped up to run to his arms. Wait, think. There was something wrong with this picture. She couldn't get a single thought from his head. It was a gray blank. That had never happened before. Also, he was wearing a white coat. He smelled all antiseptic-y. The fact that he was here at all. Her brain felt simultaneously hyper and sluggish, and she blinked several times, trying to figure this out, as if it were a 2-minute mystery. Jeb knelt on the wooden floor in front of her. The white coats who'd been running the maze melted into the background. Cheb reached back and held something out to her. Angel looked at it blankly. It was a tray of food, lots of delicious-looking food, hot and steaming. It smelled so good, Angel felt a whimper of longing rise in her throat. She stared at the tray, her brain crackling with input, and she had a bunch of thoughts all at once. 1. Jeb looked like he was on their side now, an enemy of the flock, like all the other white coats at the school. 2. Wait till Max found out about this. Max would be, well, she'd be so mad and so hurt and so upset that Angel couldn't even imagine it. She didn't want to imagine it. She didn't want Max to ever feel that way. Angel, aren't you hungry? You haven't been getting very much to eat, have you? Jeb looked concerned. When they told me what they'd been feeding you, well, they misunderstood, sweetheart. They didn't know about your appetite. He laughed a little, shaking his head. I remember once when we were having hot dogs for lunch. Everyone else had 2 hot dogs each, but you ate 4 hot dogs by yourself. He laughed again, looking at her as if he thought she was amazing. You were 3 years old. 4 hot dogs. He leaned forward, gently pushing the food tray nearer so it was right beneath Angel's nose. The thing is, Angel, with your metabolism and how old you are now, you should be getting about 3,000 calories a day. I bet you haven't been hitting 1,000. He shook his head again. That's going to change now that I'm here. I'm gonna make sure that they treat you right, okay? Angel narrowed her eyes. This was a trap. This was exactly the kind of thing Max had warned them all about. Only Max had never guessed it would come from Jeb. Without saying a word, Angel sat up, crossing her arms over her chest and staring at him the way Max stared at Fang when they were having an argument and she was going to win. Angel made herself not look at the food, not even smell the food. She was so freaked at seeing Jeb here that her stomach was all in knots anyway. The fact that she couldn't pick up any of his thoughts made him seem weird and dead to her. Jeb smiled ruefully and patted Angel's knee. It's okay, Angel. Go ahead and eat. You need to. I want you to feel better. She tried not to even blink, not to show how upset she was. Sighing, Jeb unrolled the white paper napkin, took out a fork, and placed the fork right into the food on the plate. All she would have to do was reach down, and she was doomed? I know this is all confusing, Angel, Jed said gently. I can't explain everything now. It will all become clear soon, though, and then you'll understand. Sure. Angel put every bit of pain at her betrayal in that one word. The thing is, Angel, Jeb went on earnestly, life itself is a test. It's all a test. Sometimes you just have to get through it, and then later on, everything makes more sense. You'll see. Now, go ahead and eat. I promise. It's okay. I promise. Like she would believe any of his promises. I hate you, she said. Jeb didn't look surprised, maybe a bit sad. That's okay too, sweetheart. That's perfectly okay.